Welcome back to HRMAB's podcast, The Workbench. I am Nancy Solomon, former chair of HRMAB's Labour Committee, and I have the pleasure of joining me today, Patricia White, the new chair of HRMAB's Labour Committee. Welcome, Patricia.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I appreciate the warm welcome. I know you're the former chair. You did so with distinction, and I aim to follow on in the same manner.
I trust that you will, and I know that it is in good hands.
Thank you.
Patricia, today we are talking about a topic that will affect and does affect all of us at some point in time. Mm-hmm. We're looking at retirement. Mm-hmm. How do organizations approach it? How do employees prepare for it? Mm-hmm. And what should we know to avoid to ensure this process is as smooth and transitionary as possible for both the organization and the employee?
All right. So very good questions. And I think it's part of our duty to make sure we tell people about how to prepare and make sure that the organization is doing the right thing, but also to make sure that the employees are covered as well. So I'll touch first on retirement age, because I know there's a common misconception that we have a legal retirement age and we do not.
So that's not 65, because that's what everybody say, your retirement age. I mean, I know, and we know as HR practitioners it is not, but I think it's the ease in the terms. We use these terms interchangeably, pensionable age and retirement age. So tell us, so clarify that for us.
Right. So we have a pensionable age. This is when you can qualify for pension with the NISS, right? People always confuse the two. They talk about having a legal retirement age, but there really is none. How a company treats to this is that they write retirement into their policies, right? They write a retirement policy, and I would advise organizations to do that so that there's no ambiguity when it comes time for when people reach a certain age. And I will tell you that what we often find is that sometimes people get on an age after having worked for a company for a long time, and then the company may want to say, okay, you're this such and such an age, so it's time for you to go home. There's a real danger in that, because if not handled correctly, it could end up being a discrimination case. It could end up in an unfair dismissal case. We had a very critical case that was adjudged, I think it was in 2024. I stand to be corrected on a year, but in recent times, Roslyn Smith versus NUPW.
Yes.
And while the employer won that case, I know of many other situations that if it is not treated effectively and appropriately, it would go on the other side, right? Yes. So I want to advise, I'll deal with the employers first. I want to advise employers to, first of all, ensure you have a robust retirement policy. Mm-hmm. That policy should not only include the age of you expect people to retire, it should have also some of the steps that you will take in helping them to prepare. So, for example, I always advise employers to have a system where if it's 1 year before retirement, you send out notification to the employee. You have this pre-retirement discussions on how they can plan and all of those things. Okay. And then I would say 6 months again before the retirement period, you meet with them again and remind them, Nancy, you're set to retire at XYZ time. In 6 months' time, I just want to make sure that you have everything on board, and come to me if there are any questions, so that you help them to remember that, listen, we're preparing for this. This is the expectation, right? If you don't have it written into the policy and you're just expecting to terminate people when they reach a certain age, you're going to find yourselves in trouble.
Yeah.
On the other side now, for employees, I would say that they too need to take some responsibility for their retirement, meaning that ensure that you have certain things in place. I know some people may say, well, we don't have the money to do this and, have a retirement plan and so on. But I would say that whatever little you can, you put aside, right? Start to engage. Like if you have debts and so on, start to see how you can pay those down, so that you're not left with a millstone around your neck when it comes to retirement, because there are a lot of people I know who retire and they're still paying off heavy mortgages, and some have to go and find other work now to help them navigate this new normal now of having debts and supposedly are retired.
That is true. That is very, very true. And then, Patricia, we also have the situation where some companies, the retirement age is before the national retirement age. Correction, pensionable age. You see, we're catching it on. So the company's retirement age may be 65. Mm-hmm. but our national pensionable age is 67 and a half and moving. So we're moving steadily to 70.
Yeah.
So you have that gap. So you're getting company pension, if it is your company has a pension, because not all organizations have pensions established for their employees.
Correct.
And that's another thing that we have to be aware of. And then you have to wait 2.5, 3 years before you get now the pension from the government. That in between, people have to prepare for. That in between, that is an area of growth. And many people don't realize that too, because if they take the pension from the government early,
they reduce. Because they get it out reduced rate. Yeah.
So all of those are things that they have to be in the conversations, because you mentioned a year. But I'm saying that some of these conversations probably need to happen maybe as early as 5 years ahead.
Yes.
Because you don't know the level of debt.
Correct.
Someone may carry. Correct. May carry, and that cannot be settled in a short period of a year.
So the year would work if you had planning before. Correct. So I agree. Yes. So organizations then can deal with that by having those regular conversations with the staff, right? Yeah. Having those from early on.
One of the things like we do here in my organization, well, of course, as you come in, you have the conversation about joining the retirement plan.
Correct.
But we try to engage maybe at least every 5 years or so, just generally having persons come in, look at because we offer a defined contribution plan, what type of investment you've chosen.
Correct.
We have the investors come in and speak to, because you may have chosen one stream of investment now.
Things change.
And then things change.
Yes.
And you want to now switch it up. So you have the opportunity, at the beginning of the year, you can change the investment portfolio you're using. So we try to make sure persons understand that the discussion of retirement is not something that you only think about 5 months, a year before you hit 65, but something that you have to think about throughout.
Correct. So, like I said, what would help with that is a robust policy, because obviously when people are coming into your organization, or even if they're already there but you're rolling out a new policy, it's supposed to spread company-wide.
Yes.
And not only just handing the document and leave it at that. It's not a museum document. It is you're supposed to really be having those discussions around the policy, centered around the policy, breaking down what the policy is about, what is intending to do, and then start those discussions from then, right? So I agree with you. If you have a robust policy that has everything that should be in it built into it, it should take care of that earlier discussions that you mentioned.
Yeah. Now, in Barbados, we have an aging population.
We do.
So in light of that, we have, as I said, many companies, some companies even have retirement age as early as 60. So you have 60, you have 65, which is I would say more or less the norm for most organizations. And then we have the pensionable age of 67, the national pensionable age. But because of aging populations, Barbadians live to 100. There can also be, what is the discussion? Again, I know some organizations do give you the opportunity, if there's a willingness on both sides, to work beyond that 65. Again, you're speaking about the policy. So I'm thinking of this all in light of the fact that we have people who are healthy. We have an age population, so there are not a lot of younger people right now in the workforce support. So this person may need to actually go beyond the regular age. Even thinking about that, planning about that, what should they consider even in their policies? The same retirement.
Good question, Nancy, because again, this is what I advise employers to do, and this is a common practice that I have. Into that policy, you build in a clause that allows you deal with it on a case-by-case basis. Yes. You don't want it widespread, to be honest, because that could end up being a millstone around the company's neck, to be quite honest. But you add it as a clause that the company can consider the person working on beyond the retirement policy age, right? Which is a discussion and agreement between the two parties.
Right.
That's a good way to handle that. And you will find that there are companies who naturally do that. They have the policy and they allow people to continue working on. They have an arrangement. It is captured in writing so that, both parties are on the same page and there are no ambiguities or any misunderstandings going forward.
Yeah, and I think that is going to really be the crux of it now, because as the national pensionable age moves, you even see banks now offering you mortgages up to 70.
Longer, yes. Yeah, longer
longer periods where before that would not have even been entertained.
Correct.
Recognizing age of our population, that things keep moving, that we are going to have the conversations earlier, as you said, in terms of a case-by-case basis, because there are also those persons who may want to be
yes, there are some who really want to go, yes. So you can't do it as a blanket to force people to stay longer, but you are right. You put a clause in there that captures those, the ones that you may need to stay longer or who may have that need to continue being productive, because you rightfully said everybody is not ready to tap out at 67
or 65.
right,
because you may have a lot more to give, but then there are those who, and as we are talking about that, I know there's always this topic, and for HR practitioners it's one of those uncomfortable topics. Medical and persons have to go off medically unfit. So I now have to retire you early. That conversation, I mean, from as an HR practitioner, is never one we want to have, because it means that this is someone who can no longer supply the organization with its commitments, but also someone who has given a few years of service and more than likely actually at a point of need where they need the organization more. As HR practitioners navigating these conversations,
such a touchy subject,
yes,
and it's one you're going to be very careful with, because now you're talking about fitness to perform the job for which they were hired, and we cannot make that decision just wholesale and say, okay, you look like you're not well, or I feel you're not well, or we talked and you said you're not well, so you go home. It has to come down to testing to determine whether they are truly not fit to perform the duties. So that is something that is a process. It really is a process. It's not something that you do fly by night. It is a process that it has to go through meetings with the employee, testing to determine if it is accurate, and that testing has to occur juxtaposed to that person's job description.
Yes.
Right? So it is not as simple as saying, okay, I believe you are not fit, or I see you every day, you're not fit, go home. Right? It's a very and it will pass the point of this discussion, but it is more in depth than just making that decision wholesale.
And who does the testing? Because I know, of course, that's always now the employee may say, but I have my doctor, my own doctor, and the company is going to say, no, but you got to go to our company doctor.
If the company is asking the employee to go, the company will be paying for the testing, right? And that too is another touchy subject. Let me say why. They may want to go to their doctor, but the issue that they may be experiencing that's stopping them from working, or that we believe is stopping them from working, their doctor may not be qualified to speak on that. It may be a specialist. I know of a case where the person they have the regular medical doctor, but what they were experiencing was psychological. Right. Their MD is not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So it depends on the ailment or what the issue is, then that may drive the specialist or the person, the practitioner that they're there to see.
Makes sense, of course. So retirement has so many different levels, so many different facets. I mean, we touched on when the employee wants to go, how the employer should prepare, how the employee should prepare, when it's a state that no one really wants to separate, as we were just speaking about, when those persons have to go home early due to medical illness. When, as HR practitioners, we are preparing, I go back to the employee who walks in, that young person who comes in, fresh off the street, 18, 25 years old.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed,
you know. And you're trying to tell that 25-year-old about retirement, and they're looking at you very confused. Ma'am, I'm 25. I many more years. How do we help that person to understand that retirement is something you plan for
long before you need it,
not
long before you need it?
And that, and I would say to you, Patricia, that is one of the challenges I believe that we're also having,
because it is.
We are unable to get that through there, to bridge that understanding, that gap where you have to start planning now.
Yeah. What I will say to you, though, I found dealing with the younger generation is that they like people to reason with them, right? So if you come from a position of that you're talking down to them or you're lording over them, they take offense to that. What they like, I found with, and it wouldn't work for all young people, but I found with the ones I've dealt with, what they like is for somebody to reason with them. So you sit down and get on their level and you explain, listen, I am not 2 mornings. Just in the blink of an eye, well, before I was at your age, and now I blink twice and look at my age.
All right? Time, I remember that. Yeah, I was 21 the other day.
And listen, as somebody said, they said the hours are long, but the years are short, right? So you reason with them and you explain to them, listen, I was a youngster just like you, only a few years ago, and I care about you. I care about you, and because I care about you, I want us to have that discussion so that you start to plan for your future. I find that when you talk to people like that, especially younger people, you reason with them, they're more open or inclined to listen. Even if they may decide to discard it after, they're more open and inclined to listen. Yes.
Well,
respect is a big thing I find with the younger generation, and it should be,
It should be, and we have, and I mean, we're not going to delve into that this multi-generational workforce and in the challenges as HR practitioners we have in navigating, because as you recognize, we have to treat each of these different entities different groupings, and that's a different conversation for another time. But Patricia, I really want to thank you for the insights that you've given us, for the direction, for the snippets that you've shared with us today on the aspect of retirement, because it is a critical aspect of our employment relationship, our employment engagement. It is one often, I would say, regarded for the later years, but as we just said, it's something that has to be discussed at the beginning. Correct. Right, because it really ties into proper planning, and while it is not just planning for the employee, but it's organizational planning. As we talk about succession planning, it is. I mean, we've not touched on that extensively, but it really is a critical component to any business continuity. Yes, right? It is. So I just want to thank you for the insights you've shared with us today. I appreciate it so much. We look forward to hearing more from you in your current role. We know that we'll be seeing you in many, many other things that the association will be having. And again, thank you for joining us on the Workbench, where we break down ideas and build out insights. Thank you.